The board meeting. Let's start with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the roll call, we have the same old tired board members, four of us.
Old? You don't have to keep reminding us, Larry.
Have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. No comment, anyone from the public wishing to testify? Seeing none, we'll move on to action items. Item number one.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve resolution number 16-2015 establishing wholesale water rates charged to Sunrise Water Authority effective July 1st, 2015.
Second.
Carol.
Good evening. This is our annual review of the wholesale water rates. We do have two adjustments this year. For the last couple of years, the power rates have stayed really stable and we haven't increased for power rates. But this year, we do have an increase in power costs that we are also passing along to our wholesale customers, Sunrise Water Authority. So the rate is going from about 64 cents to about 66 cents per CCF for the upcoming fiscal year.
Any discussion? If not, we'll have a roll call vote. Those in favor say aye, those opposed say no.
Commissioner Humberston?
Aye.
Commissioner Kalani?
Aye.
Commissioner McNeil?
Aye.
Commissioner Sterling? Commissioner Sawa?
Aye.
Don't you got his head down?
You just made my day.
You did her up for that, didn't
Move on to the consent agenda, yeah?
you? You did that on purpose.
Yes. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Not, all those in favor say aye, those opposed say no.
Aye.
Aye.
Informational report. Carol, third quarter financial review.
Yeah, so here we are, three quarters of the way through the fiscal year, 75%. My first graph here that I'm showing you shows the year-to-date total in the blue columns of the revenue that we have booked so far this year. The red line is showing what 75% of the budget is. So this year we are currently a little ahead of budget. We had some higher usage in the summer. It was pretty warm and dry, and that impacts this rate. You can see that a few years back we weren't doing quite so well, but now we're kind of meeting our targets. Additionally, I've prepared a graph that shows 75% of the budget year for expenditures, and this is all of the expenditures, the personnel services, materials and services, and the capital outlay expenditures. And you can see that we are somewhat under budget at this point. That being said, there's a few things that we're monitoring closely. And one of those is the personnel services budget. We're at 71.2% of the budget. But when we get to the end of the year, we have about 7 days worth of payroll that needs to be accrued back. We've also had some unusual items, and we're also seeing fewer dollars going into CIP activity. It's picking up a little bit now, but when we are working on these projects that are presented to us by other agencies, we're dependent upon their timing. So we may not end the year moving that many dollars to CIP. If we look at materials and services, there's a few areas where we are over budget, but again, we appropriated that materials and services. So with other areas that are under, we're going to be fine in that. But some of them to think about, the credit card processing fees, that's going to exceed the budget, and there's a couple of reasons for that. We do have more people paying their bills with credit cards. We have finally been able to offer our customers the ability to have a recurring payment on a credit card, so that increased the numbers that pay with credit cards. Plus, as the value of their bills have gone up, you remember the revenue thing where we're a little bit above revenue. we pay a percentage of the transaction, so that's also causing the credit card processing fees to be a little higher.
That's not a flat fee?
No.
Is there a way to get that to be a flat fee?
We pay a pretty low rate because we get a special utility rate, so it's less than 3%, but it is 3%. It's calculated on the value of the bill. So there are some entities that will offer a flat rate, but if you don't bring in the kind of revenue that they expect, because they have to pay Visa and MasterCard, if you don't bring in the kind of revenue that they expect, then they'll raise that flat rate. Whereas this way, we know that we're paying specifically for the credit card services that we're using. So the other one is we've got the security line item is a little bit higher, and that's, we've added some additional cameras, and so that increased our monthly bill just a little bit. Payroll processing fees are going to slightly exceed budget, and telecommunications is also a little bit higher. So there's some other items, if you look at the list that's included in your board packet, that you'll see that are greater than 75% of the budget. But the ones that I did not mention are items that we've paid 100% of the cost already. So if we're at 85 or 95%, we're not going to see any other charges that go to those line items. So the materials and services will remain within the budget appropriation. Capital outlay is really low at this point in time, and there's going to be some fairly large hits. Capital outlay again, anything over 5,000, so it comes in chunks. So by the time we get to June 30th, we should be closer to that budgeted number. Probably still under, but we will be much closer. So just overall, we're in good shape. I may come to the board at the June meeting and ask for a transfer of some dollars from the materials and services section to the personnel services section. Again, because of slightly less use of personnel in CIP than we budgeted for, than we anticipated. We had a retirement payout. We had sick leave policy correction. We had a couple of people that were grandfathered, and we kind of brought everybody to the same rules. And then we've also had the wage changes. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Any questions?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Management report.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, we just went through in March an audit by the Oregon Health Authority, and pleased to tell you that there was no adverse findings. There was an administrative note that was provided by the Health Authority that, as you know, we have reassigned some staff by taking our operations manager, Mr. Bunyard, and we've assigned him to the emergency planning activity area. He was our level 4 certified person, and we have 2 additional people on staff who have that certification, but we did not note it in our record keeping. So we have since done that, and we have notified staff what they already knew, but the Oregon Health Authority wanted us to specifically do that in writing. So that has been done. That was the only adverse finding that they had. And this is really, even though it was administered, the audit with our water resources manager, this is really for essentially our south side, as I understand, in the operations group.
There you go.
Yeah. So, but as I said, that the findings were favorable. Number 2, we had a break on 82nd Avenue on the 29th of May. The specifics are in attachment A1. Yes.
Not May.
Yes, Kat.
It's not May.
Oh, okay.
It's not the 29th of
Was it
May.
April?
It must be April.
April.
Still in May.
Oh,
That's the date I gave you the report.
Yeah. Doesn't mean I read it.
Or at least comprehended
Well,
it.
actually, well, the fault is mine, because it's in my report, so I stand corrected.
Corrected for the record, that's okay.
The Special Districts Association of Oregon had a legislative update on April 10th, and Commissioners Kalani and Chair Soa attended that with me. It was a breakfast meeting. There's a lot of crazy legislation out there, to say the least. The ex-Governor Kitzhaber's transportation budget has been revised by Governor Brown and the legislative leadership. One of the things I find that is noteworthy, not only for us as a district, but for us as individuals, is this no carbon footprint legislation that essentially is looking for a 10% reduction in carbon by the year 2025. What they're suggesting is that if that passes, basically the Oregon Trucking Association has already notified the legislature that they will basically be looking for a referendum of the voters. They will be wanting to refer this to the voters. And one of the reasons for it is that there's a guesstimation that it will increase the price of gas for somewhere between 25 cents to $1.25 per gallon. That's pretty significant. And I think that there's some discussion about whether or not this is something that is even a problem, but the legislation seems to be headed for the governor's signature.
Isn't it already under?
Yeah, it is. That's already signed.
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
And I kind of wrote this story.
Yeah.
So.
Which is why the transportation bill is hung up right now, because it's a non-starter until they do something about that other thing.
Yeah. And the polling on that I think that's been done has pretty much said that this is probably a non-starter with the voters as well, and so it should be interesting times ahead. So not quite as much as if you lived in Portland, it's even worse, because we also have the street fee thing that's sitting on the shelf ready to be pulled off. That has not been received favorably in the city of Portland as well. So there's more to come. The other bill was the mandatory voter registration with renewal of driver's license. That's another one that's being tracked. Urban services agreements, which is House Bill 2895. There's already a requirement for urban services agreement, but as we all know, that's kind of gone nowhere, even though it's been on the books for quite some time. This would mandate it. There's been, at least there had been, up to 2,600 bills that had been submitted. SDAO has indicated they're tracking about 662 of those. The next one that we have is the PERS issue. Most of you have heard about that, where the legislature or the Supreme Court of Oregon has ruled that the state a deal's a deal, and the state cannot go back and adjust retirees' pensions. Again, anyone should know that you can't do that. That has not ever been successful. They did let stand that future pensions or proceeds could be, and they also removed the provision for out-of-state pensioners where they could be taxed on their pension. Specific to CRW, that's right. I think reported to you back when this was being submitted that we were not going to spend the money, that those funds have moved to our ending balance. Some districts are going to be in real trouble because they have spent the money, and they're going to probably be getting hit pretty heavily on that. When the rates are revised, what is that, a year from now, I think?
17.
We have 2 years at the
Yeah,
current rates that are in the
17.
budget.
Yeah. So that's there. I understand that they're projecting surplus funds of about 480 million. So it may be that the kicker might be happening this year. And I know there's been some efforts to try to head that off so that the legislature didn't have to do it. As you know, you don't get a check now, it's a credit. That'll be happening at the year end. Then there are several bills that House Bill 3321 and 3222, those have been tabled as you predicted, Dr. Sola. It was a non-starter, but that would have been very interesting, where there would be a requirement that we do some administrative analysis on all contract legislation before we could go out to bid. It actually made no sense at all, in my opinion, and I think that was probably one of the things. Plus, there was a barrage of letter writing that went on by special districts and its membership to help defeat legislation. We met with the city of Milwaukee on the 13th of April. Had an update. They're still interested in concluding our IGA by June of 16. They want to get it done, they said, before I leave the organization. The Carver Bridge, I think Commissioner Humberston attended the testing on the 16th of April. It was successful. I think our staff did a fantastic job of putting the pipe together, and it got it up to the 300 pounds of pressure, slightly over that, and there was no leaks. So we're now we've gotten the reports back from the experts, and what the experts are telling us is that there's probably some contributory negligence here between the designer of the pipe and the contractor in terms of the workmanship issue, which puts, I think, CRW in a nice position, if there's ever a nice position in any kind of litigation. And so we are working to put together a meeting to get all the parties together and try to resolve this issue. So, yes.
So I heard that there was a design problem,
Yes.
but it didn't show up in our test.
No, because our test, the staff put it together correctly. Took the time with the help of our engineering department of doing that. And as you know, we had 2 experts on hand along with testing entity, contractor, and we also videotaped the process. So, and one of the things that we take legal note of is that even though our staff have put together these kind of joints, they've never put together this pipe, and we still didn't have any difficulties. So,
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Ken?
I know you don't have the reports in front of you, so you may not be able to answer, but I don't understand where the design flaw comes in the report back. If it's clearly, from what I saw, and I am not an expert, but from what I saw, if it is installed per the directions, which is what our staff did, it doesn't leak. So I'm just curious as to what the design flaw is alleged to be.
You want to address that?
Yeah, just, thank you.
I know our technical staff is going to be meeting to try to clear up a few errors in the reports by the experts, but Bob can address the specifics.
Thank you.
So the test we did was using the materials that, exactly what the bridge used. So what we proved was the materials
as designed for 300 PSI works. Now, when you assemble them on the bridge, that expansion, that RCM adjustment in the joint, when you have 25 or 30 joints, it moves when it expands. It has to do with the connection of how much expansion was designed into the assembly of the overall design. The materials are good.
Okay.
So it's really how it's connected at the end of the bridges going from the hangars and how they're hung. Expansion, contraction of the thermal or physical expansion of the pipe, and then how it goes into the ground where it's more solid, it doesn't move.
So if I understand right, if you had a 1/4 inch expansion when it's under pressure at each joint, you got 27 joints, then you've got 27 times a 1/4 inch expansion. Is that what you're essentially saying as far as a design issue is concerned?
Yes.
Thank you. Just
So,
like trains.
Just for the record, did the contractor have the pleasure of having that information from the design engineer?
How much do we go into this? Because it's kind of on the legal side of how our expert witnesses are.
Yeah, I just was
into
wanting
this.
to know, anytime you're putting any kind of pipe together, there's always a table that you follow, depending on the length of the run that's exposed to the dynamic and temperature and pressure.
One of the things we could do,
Mhm.
if the chair agrees, is have Mr. George come in at the first beginning of our executive session, if you want to get into the specifics of that, maybe take 5 minutes.
If it's under potential litigation.
Yeah, that would be a way to do that.
Good. Thank you, Bob.
The other thing that I'd like to report on, even though we did not have a successful outcome, you see the poster board over there. Ms. Bright, who, as you know, she went off and got smarter by getting a master's degree. And she had heard through her school that they were offering up a grant called the Oregon Innovation Award. And if you submitted a proposal, which we ultimately did along in partnership with Sunrise Water, that there was a potential that we would be the recipient of the grant, because, you know, one of the things that the board has asked us, as we've done with the other things, is to look wherever we can to find resources to help defray some of our costs. Well, this grant would have given us a year of consulting free had we been successful. We weren't, we lost out to Metro that had submitted, what, 2 proposals?
2 or 3.
2 or 3 proposals.
Oh, they stacked it then.
Oh, yeah. And so, but we were selected to submit.
No, he said they stacked it down. Could mean the same thing.
Yeah.
I think Michael Jordan taught them how to do that.
But I thought that they put together a nice poster, or we put together a nice poster with the help of Sunrise and some consultants, and they had a banquet, and it lasted forever and ever. It was almost like going to church. So we left.
Did you get a free meal out of it?
Yeah, we got a free meal. I guess that's what it was, but anyway. But anyway, really, thanks to Ms. Bright for bringing that to our attention. You already know about the budget meeting. The other thing is that we're working with the Little League to try to get their issues resolved with respect to the snack shack. I thought we'd have some report back from them. We haven't heard yet, but we'll be bringing that back probably at the June meeting if we have anything to report. And Mr. Chair, that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Move on to commission business. Anyone, any wishes to comment under public comment on this report? Commission business. Yes, be sure and get your expenditures in. Look like everybody had those in. Any other commission business? Not, we're adjourned.